Okay, so learning about Git, come on, rockets, go away. Uh, Git.scm has a lot of documentation, uh, and I'm going to explain like a few things which might confuse you or which might help understand things a little better. All right, so our spaceship stage one is basically this version one. All right, so 3 files got created. In the phase 2, those 3 particular files had some changes. In the phase 3, those files did not have any changes. Like this is basically, we're talking about the code just related to the main field section, not the other parts. But there are going to be changes going into the main field section based on the changes happening in the other 4 sections. Okay, so during build of cargo selection, some more changes got added here. Same thing here, same thing here. Okay, now this little triangle symbol, it's called delta, and something you're gonna hear over and over. But what that means, uh, while storing the file, this is the main file, and there are going to be certain changes. So if this is a 100-line file, all that might have changed in version 2 would be just 5 lines. So instead of storing that new file, it's a general practice to store the first file and the delta, uh, and basically it'll be just 2 pointers, like so version 2 would be a pointer to the original file and this delta wherever that's stored. Same thing when you're going for version 4 for file A, that will be a pointer to file A, the delta in version 2, and then the delta in version 4. Now what this does, you don't have repetition of the same data all over, and you still have all the versions, like basically the life cycle of that file through the entire project. And now the way this process is implemented by Git is in 3 stages. Actually, it's in 4 stages, but the 4th stage is just getting back up of the 3rd stage. Okay, so working directory is a folder on your machine, okay, and where you basically, let's open iTerm, and the working directory here could be anything, and then bucket, and phase 1. All right, so for the first phase, we created these 3 files. All right, and now I'm going to do git init, and so it will initialize an empty repository. That git init, what it did was it created an empty repository that's going to use for storing our code. Okay, so and we go into a lot more detail about this, but at this point, as you see them, they're red. They are red because basically they have no connection to the repository right now. These are local changes. If your machine dies, those changes will be gone. Okay, so now there is an intermediate state. When you push the code all the way to the repository, it's kind of finalized for phase 1. Okay, I mean, whatever phase you're working on, but you are like, the code doesn't get from file 1 straight to completion. There are going to be intermediate phases, and those intermediate phases is the staging area. Okay, so let's say my work on file 1 is done, and in this case what I'm going to do, well, this is the syntax to add the file in the staging area. Okay, so now this file is in the staging area, and now I am not making any more changes to it. Okay, so this file still exists here, but I'm basically saying at this point, whatever changes I have there, I have some confidence in it, so just keep them in the middle. By the way, I refer to this as state in the actual demo lectures, and I picked up the term from Terraform, but basically when I'm saying state, local state, I'm referring to this staging area. So working directory is the red stuff that I'm working on, staging area is the green stuff, and once I'm completely done working with, at the end of the day, basically if I'm saying okay, whatever I have done so far is fantastic and I could have added more changes, or I couldn't, I mean, like I might not have, but that file I'm saying is ready to be finalized, and at that point I say commit this file to the repository, and I should try to git commit -m first commit. Okay, now in this case we have 3 files here. Okay, but if something happens to your machine and something dies, the only file that you're gonna lose is file 2 and file 3. This file 1 is safely stored in the repository, in this case on the local machine, but that's not going to happen that you're going to have the repository on your local machine. It's going to be a central place on a big server. Okay, so this is the principle. And then the next thing that we do, because we are poor people, so I have my repository on my local machine, and I'm not really working with any team. So the option I have is make a copy of this repository in the cloud, and there are several providers that basically provide a way for us to create a repository in the cloud, and that basically we keep that in sync with the repository in the cloud, and the cloud provider takes care of backing up, and they do it for free. But basically the idea is the first trial phase, and then as your code grows, then you're going to pay for actually using the service. But right now we're going to use this free service. Now just assume because of lack of I'm not creating any more animations. The animations take way longer, and I just want to focus on the content at this point. Okay, let me just create new window. Okay, so the black part on this side is a web repository. Okay, and now there are files in the working directory that are temporary files. Those are files with work in progress. The files that you are kind of thinking, okay, I am kind of done, you put them in the staging area. Once they're completely done, you put them in the repository. Okay, but now when the file is in the staging area, you suddenly remember, gosh, I forgot this. Okay, so in that case, what you do is take that file out of the staging area, back to your working directory, make the changes, and put it once again in the staging area. Now, same thing can happen where you have already put that file all the way to the local repository. Same thing, you're going to take it out of the local repository, and that process is going to be called checkout. Okay, and moving the directory from working directory to the staging area, that's the second arrow, that basically staging the fixes, and then going from staging area to the Git repository local is called commit, and the next stage is push, and these are just like terms to refer to these activities. But push means you are going to send your changes from the local repository to the on-web repository. It's not automatically backup. You have to send whatever you're done with to the web repository. And the idea is always, at the end of the day, all of these need to be in sync. And the next time you start working, then you make changes. Once again, at the end of the day, everything should be in sync. All right. So that's the theoretical concept. Now we will create our own repository on the local machine as well as in the web in the next chapter. It will be pretty quick, and after that we will have demos and demos and demos of how things actually work with Git. Thank you guys. See you in the next chapter.